Welcome to a learntolearn.org podcast. We are here to support your learning, taking off the limits that we have accrued to our learning and adding in those ingredients that we've learned from world-class learners that have made them the best, so that we can each update our own programming and become the best learners that we can be. We're really glad that you're here to share some time with us. We hope that this brings you exactly what you need today to better engage in your life and your learning. Today we want to look at one of the most fundamental things about learning. And again, in our podcast, yes, we want to address learning in school. We want to help kids and their parents to learn how to learn more effectively and how to apply that in their lives to be more successful. We also want this to support all people in the same way, for you to be able to learn in a way that makes you happy in your life, that makes you successful in the way that you define success. That could be monetary, that could be a better relationship, a healthier experience of your body, a more enjoyable engagement in any area of yourself or your life. One of the most fundamental parts of being able to learn is simply applying ourselves in an ongoing way. You may have heard it said that the brain is like any muscle, that you have to work it out in order for it to get stronger, in order for it to get better. A lot of people think in terms of, well, if I'm smart, it just came to me, it somehow happened, it's just natural. And if I'm not, well, that's just what I'm stuck with. We have a very different view here. There may be some innate capacity at birth, but that's very much like the innate capacity we have to engage physically in life. I know one fellow who started out literally as that kind of 90-pound nerd guy just going into high school. And he decided that he wanted to be a very successful football player. And the guy worked out extremely hard, both on the field, in the gym, and any other way that he could. And he went from that to a probably 250-pound superstar, both high school, college, pro. This fellow had to work out intensely, be very focused, know what his goals were, and apply himself day in and day out. But he was able to take his initial state and through his vision, through his application, become all that he had imagined and even more. We've certainly seen the same thing with people in regards to learning. We've seen many people who were sure that they had no capacity to learn and go on to become easy A students and become doctors, lawyers, other kinds of professionals, or whatever else it was that they wanted to do. By having a clear vision, goals in mind, they applied themselves and they sustained that application. So we believe that intrinsic in all of us is amazing capacity beyond what it may appear on the surface. We know that in some cultures that day-to-day application is very built into the culture. It's part of the underlying mythos. The underlying assumption is that is just what you do. There are some people that say culture that is based in rice farming as an example, that historically for thousands of years that's what people have done, have that attitude culturally, because to grow rice 7 days a week from sun up to sundown, one is out working in the rice paddies. It is just the assumption that that's what you do. Where in other cultures, There is more the sense historically that as farmers that you work some and that there are lots of holidays and all of that. I was strongly reminded of this when visiting the Midwest not long ago and was told by locals that at this point a lot of the large farms, that the farmers are only there 2 months in the spring and 2 months in the fall. They plant, they harvest, and the rest of the time not. Our sense of, well, I should be able to just go west, young man, and strike gold and apply myself for a little while and then have it all. Or that sense of, as I hear from so many kids these days, that they just want to be an entrepreneur because they're going to be able to apply themselves for a little while and success is bound to come. Well, that's great when it happens, but to ensure success, to ensure the outcomes we want, we have to apply ourselves over time. And to be able to apply ourselves, we have to have a vision of where we're going, how we want things to be. And that vision has to be inspiring to us. So this really brings us today to the topic of motivation. We've done studies of people that are the most successful. And interestingly enough, almost all of them have what we might call a very powerful motivation strategy. Something that they do internally again and again and again, both on a small scale to get a little project done and on a big scale to get the outcomes in the long term that they're wanting. So is there a common underlying motivation strategy, a sequence of things that they do internally that produce those results? And from what we see in the research and what we see in talking to those very successful individuals, yes, in fact, there is a common strategy, a common approach that they take to succeeding in their life. So what's that strategy? What's that internal step-by-step process that they go through? Well, here it is. It actually is fairly simple and easily engaged. Most of the people that are very successful in the ways that we're talking about first have a vision of the outcome they want. Let's say it is a short-term vision. Let's say they want to put it in the educational sphere, they want to get an A on the test next week. They start with already imagining having that A, what that's going to feel like, how they're going to view themselves, how other people are going to view them. They imagine the whole of that, how it's going to feel, how it will look through their eyes, what they're going to be telling themselves, again, how other people are going to be viewing them, what that's going to do to their further vision of the future, and then they step into that. They don't just imagine it out there in the future, oh, wouldn't it be nice? They actually step into it and already experience it. Well, you could imagine if you're stepping into already experiencing getting that A and feeling great about it and other people applauding you for having done it, you're probably going to feel great. There's going to be a sense of that was worth doing. And also implicit in that is a sense of I can do it because I've already imagined it. It's already happened. So they step into it. They look around, they see what their life is like. They, again, notice all the feelings, all the ways that other people engage with them around that. Other kids going, oh, they're one of the smart kids or whatever that is. And when they embody that strongly, they often look back and go, so how did I get here? What did I do that got me from where I was a week ago to this success? And they can see the steps that were required, the steps that they took. And from this point of view, it's like, well, that's easily done. I not only can do it, but my experience right now is I did do it. They can see and feel the need for those steps. And then they take all of that and bring it back into the present, into today. And then they do the next step, the next thing that is required. They take out the book, they make the notes, they show up to class, they ask for help, whatever it is that they need to do. And let's say they read the next chapter. And as they're reading that, they're stepping back into that future again. Every time they learn a new piece, they step into that future with the sense of, yeah, this is what that's leading to. So they're constantly rewarding themselves, constantly reinforcing the value of going forward. In this way, they become driven to do all that is necessary. I think about, in the long run, I think about one fellow that I know where he, from a very early age, I believe he said maybe 7, 8 years old, he imagined going into the world of fashion and being successful there in producing literature, working in magazines and videography and all of that. And every day he would step into that and just get that greater determination of, yeah, this is for me. And then he would come back and do what was necessary. And he told me one time that he had the sense of he didn't even want to let up for one day because somebody else would step in line ahead of him. And he was determined that he was going to come out on top. He maintained that approach for many years and became extremely successful in that world, in that industry, and still applies that same process for going forward from where he is now to the next vision he has of himself. So let's take a bit of time and practice this. I want you to think about some future goal, some outcome that you really want. Could be anything that is important to you. I want you to look out into that future and see yourself being successful in the biggest way possible there, the way that you really would hope that it would come out. Watch for what are the elements that make that so important to you, that engage you there. How do you see yourself being in that situation? How do you see yourself interacting with other people? How do you see them interacting with you? And now what happens when you step into that? It's not just looking at yourself out there. Now you're in it. You're looking around through your own eyes here in this world that you've envisioned. You're feeling through your own body. You feel your feet on the ground. You hear the sounds around you. You sense the completeness of this. And you feel the satisfaction that comes with this accomplishment. Once again, from in your experience, notice, how are other people viewing you? How are they responding to you? What's it like to have this engagement with the world, this level of success? And from here, what do you see coming in the future? What doors does this open? What more becomes possible now? Solidly grounded in this situation, I want you to look back to today when you started this process from this future, and notice the sense of accomplishment, and notice what happened that let you get here. What steps did you take? What ways of showing up in your life did you engage from? What happened that brought this about? And with this sense of things, with this knowledge, with this sense of I've done it, I want you to bring all that back into present day. And now look back out at that desired future with that sense of, I've already been there. I've already experienced that. I already can sense the reality of this. And notice what this does to your motivation. Notice how this ups your desire for this outcome. Notice how much easier it is to take those steps that bring about that outcome that you want. And notice, what do you do next? If we pay attention, there's always a sense of what's next. What's the next step? What's the next thing we need to do? Even if we're not sure of all of it, if we take that step, then from that vantage point, we know the next step and the next. Now, as you move towards that goal, there are going to be two things that can happen. One, there is that excitement that comes with getting closer. Even when we're not 100% certain of the how, we know now where we're going, we've had the experience, it's more familiar, and we can sense we're getting a bit closer. And then periodically, as you move towards that, as you hit little signposts on the way, we then step back into this future, experience it once again, and maybe even more richly. And then bring that again back into present day to reinforce what you're doing. Now, there is a part that we should add here. Sometimes people aren't sure of the goal, often because they try and be too specific or sometimes too vague. In thinking about the goal and thinking about that outcome state, the easiest way to do it, there's a lot that we can fill in at some later time, but the easiest way to do this is to think about, in the most internal way, what's it going to be like when I've gotten there? Not what are the particulars, not where am I going to be or who specifically is going to be around me, or is it going to be on a Tuesday or a Friday, or, am I going to get a 98 or 100% or all the specifics. But what is that internal experience that we have when we arrive there? So let's pick the most obvious thing. Let's say we're preparing for a test. What is it going to be like when you're getting that test back and you've aced it? How do things light up internally? What happens to your sense of self? What happens to your sense of who you can be in this world? Step into that. Let's say we're starting a business and we're not 100% sure yet how it's all going to play out. But we know what this inner experience is if we stop and take a minute and check what's it going to be like when it works. Because this is what most fundamentally always motivates us. This is what gets us to get up in the morning. If we're preparing to go to the Olympics, I think of a fellow that I worked with. He was very close to making the Olympic team, but kept falling just shy of it. One couldn't have worked harder. He prepared, worked hard every day, did everything possible. His nutrition was perfect. His workout was beyond amazing. Everything. And he couldn't quite break that time barrier. The thing he had never done is he had never imagined himself on the Olympic podium. He had never imagined getting that gold around his neck and the anthem playing and people going crazy in recognition of him. When he stepped into that, really fully let himself be on that Olympic platform, he just started sobbing. Later he said he'd never, ever allowed himself to make that real. 3 days later, he broke the time barrier easily. Hadn't worked out more. I mean, he had worked out, but not more in some giant way. He had not, suddenly discovered the physiological key. This is what he had done, and it completely changed the outcome. He didn't have the specifics. He didn't have, where's the stadium going to be and, what time of day or any of that. Who was number 2? Who was number 3? He just tried this on in terms of what his internal experience was going to be, what it was that he was hoping all of that training and all of that effort and any success he had in that, what that was going to bring about for him. That was the key. So once again, just take a moment in whatever area you're thinking about and try on what that outcome is going to mean to you. Let yourself deepen into that experience. Let yourself feel it from head to toe. What is going to happen to your sense of who you are and what you're capable of? How others will relate to you? What your place in the world will be? Now, if what you're going for is being accomplished at learning science, what's it going to be like to have other people look to you for your insights, your answers? If you're thinking about kids in your class and they start looking at you as the science guy, not limited to that. You may also be the athlete and the most liked kid in your class. But if you think of yourself as, I have solved the science equation. I know how to learn it. It has become easy for me, and I never thought it would be. And now it is. What happens to your sense of happiness, accomplishment, fulfillment, again, your sense of self and how others view you? This becomes the most essential goal. Yes, there are other components of it, like what part of science are you learning or what chapter are you studying for the test next week or whatever. But ultimately, it is that internal experience that all of that is meant to bring about. If we really think about it carefully, that's what we're looking for. Once again, take a moment. Think even more fully about what's that experience going to be like for you and what's it like to step into it. So now you know a strategy, an approach towards enhancing your motivation in any area. Try this on several times this week. Try it in different areas. This could be getting the dishes done. What if you see them already done? What's it like for you to go, I'm good at getting dishes done, or I'm good at cleaning the house, or I feel so great because I did all my studies and I completed them and I have tested myself on them and I know my stuff. Well, thank you for spending time with us today. We're looking forward to meeting up with you next time. Thank you for listening. Our purpose is supporting your capacity to learn and to attain all that you can imagine. We hope you use the perspectives and exercises that we have shared. Feel free to send us questions, ideas, experiences that might benefit our listeners via learntolearn.org, learn-to-learn.org. Finally, please help others by sharing our link with your friends, family, and other loved ones, since how you learn is how you live.